Good morning. This is the Innovation Conversation. How you doing, Tom?
I'm good, Kevin. How are you
Good.
today?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Looking forward to seeing you in just a few days in Las Vegas for National Grocers Association. That'll be
Woo,
fun.
woo, woo.
Yes.
Oh yeah, looking
Um,
forward to it.
so I wanted to talk a little bit today about data. It's sort of been an article of faith here at Morning News Beat. I've written this so many times over the years. People are probably tired of me saying it. That you have to have actionable data, but it's equally as important that you have to act on it, right?
Hmm.
And you actually have to act on it. And I don't think a lot of retailers don't have actionable data. A lot of retailers have it, but don't do the things they need to do with it. And I was thinking about this largely because I've been reading some about Walmart's Illuminate program, which seems, and I know you have some familiarity with this, but it seems like they have raised the bar in terms of both collection of data and then the ability to deploy it with manufacturers who they allow to share in that data. And that's the promised land, right?
Yeah, I think they position it that this is data that can help you as a manufacturer learn about your store,
Right.
which is kind of the operations side, the in stock, the movement, the kind of what. It's kind of the what
Right.
of your performance, and then it also allows you to learn about your customer, which is a little bit of the insights and the why, and the who. Of your data. So I mean, I think the way they position it is really strong. Obviously, they're the biggest of the 800-pound gorillas, or I guess they're the 820-pound gorilla. Amazon's like the 750-pound gorilla. Uh, but I think that I mean, they're really setting I think a pretty clear and compelling standard in the data platform.
And I mean, based on the reading I'm doing, them, their position is that basically Walmart has anywhere from 140 million to 180 million shoppers every week. And their goal is to build profiles on all of them.
Yeah.
Now, they're in terms of the profiles that are provided to the manufacturer, those are obviously anonymous. There's no names attached to it, but they are able to drill down pretty specifically in terms of what people are buying, when they're buying it. And one of the things I found fascinating about it, because Walmart's never had a loyalty program of any sort. But I guess that one of the things that allows them to access the data is so many transactions now are by credit card,
Yeah.
right? I mean,
Yep.
cash transactions have become minimal. I wonder how many people at Walmart probably go in and write checks. I'm sure there's some, but probably not
Yeah.
that many anymore.
Yeah.
That is just a tremendous tool that they're able to kind of bring to the marketplace as we're becoming constantly aware these days because of all the conversations surrounding Kroger and Albertsons, how big Walmart actually is.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's a massive customer base that's regularly in the store. And it's a broad range of customer profiles, obviously, when you have that many. And then the data you can glean from those transactions and the insights then, that you can, because there's data, right? Data is what happened, and the insights are what can we learn from that. And then there's the application back to those customers. How do we serve them better? Based on the insights we have, right? What types of offers, what types of assortment, what types of promotion kind of structures, right? What are the different things that will appeal to them to get them to buy more from us
Yeah.
and to then enable us to even learn more about their needs and their wants and be able to serve them better.
Yeah. I mean, full disclosure, one of the reasons I kind of got onto this was because Insight AI, which is a Morning News Beat sponsor, full disclosure, is launching a new program called Shopper AI. And basically what they're going to do is help manufacturers sort of
Mhm.
interpret and then apply the numbers. I think that's going to be a pretty big business out there, right? To help manufacturers figure out how to think and act strategically as opposed to just tactically when it comes to this fire hose of data they're likely to get.
When you think about it, right, you got manufacturers, you go just across their top handful of customers, right? You've got kind of Walmart with their data platform. You've got Kroger with 8451, their data platform. You got Amazon with their data platform. And as you work your way through those big retailers, they all have their own data platforms. Um, As you get down lower, you still have a lot of cases where they have their own platform, but then it gets almost kind of a little bit too small and a little bit harder to deal with each manufacturer separately, based on kind of a different, largely the same data, but slightly different data standards. Different things mean different things. Um, and then, these, manufacturers, you've got to determine, okay, how are we going to work across all of our retail customers, right? We have to create our own, kind of consistent views, consistent standards internally on how we want to view the market. Because as a manufacturer, ultimately reaching that end consumer, we have to engage through these various retailers. So we have that, kind of dual challenge of understanding the end consumer, then also understanding the right way to work through that retailer to get to the end consumer, right? And then if you start talking about 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 retailers below, the top few, that can get pretty overwhelming. So that's when you definitely need to start, working with, third-party providers to be able to pull the data together from across retailers to be able to give you a common view across retailers and be able to, kind of execute more consistently across those retailers, because it would be really draining, um, on the manufacturer base in general to have to manage this kind of many to many, or, for them, one to many, though, relationships. Like that's just hard to keep up with.
Yeah. It's also interesting because I mean, first of all, I mean, basically to really get all of the data with Walmart, you do have to subscribe. There's a cost, right? It's what's the phrase? It's an alternative revenue source for Walmart, but this is going to be the same with everybody, right? And then they're
Oh,
going to be looking at these manufacturers and then figuring out how to plug them into their retail media networks. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, the innovation that's going on here is fascinating,
yeah.
and it does, again, I'm not sure it's enough to make the FTC case against Kroger Albertsons, but it does speak to the kind of concentration at the top, in terms of promotional dollars, ad dollars, concentration of data, that makes it much more difficult for anybody under a certain level to compete effectively, at least using sort of the traditional tools of data management. They've got to figure out a way to go beyond it.
They do. It is, I mean, it's hard. The bigger guys, they tend to be, quite sophisticated in their ability to produce data. They tend to be quite sophisticated in their ability to use to leverage that data back, right, to serve the customer. Of course, they can monetize it. They can monetize the data going out, right, to charge the retailer for the use of that data. And they can certainly then monetize the data coming back in when you apply that data to things like retail media.
Right.
But yeah, as you work your way down through retailers, it gets tough, and it's not like a manufacturer, wants to not include the 30 or 40 store chain, that might have decent share in a few markets, but there's 15 or 20 or 30 of those, and it's almost as much work to work with one of them as it is with one of the big guys. So I think that just generally, the ability for manufacturers to be able to harmonize that data across, you know, retailers, be able to act with the big ones as well as they can with the small ones through the help of tools and technology. I think that's going to be really key. And we have so much data today, right? That's available to us. We're also creating a ton of data today because the data is available to us. We have different AI and machine learning models that are leveraging the data, producing more data. That we are absolutely in a period of kind of exponential data creation, right? There's kind of a Moore's law of the data that's being produced. And, if companies don't have a data strategy, now, they better get one soon, or else they're just going to get overwhelmed, I think, with the amount of data that's out there. And if they don't have a strategy to work with that, I think they could choke on it. They could choke on it, pretty bad. I think and there will be more efforts. I think you'll hear more efforts, uh, forthcoming just from the industry in general around just getting more consistent with our data definitions, data standards, those kinds of things. It's always been important, and there's always been initiatives around it. But I think where the types of data that's being produced and where we're using that is just exploding right now. And if companies don't stay on top of it, I think it could get pretty painful.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I wonder if at some level, I mean, you're right. There's gonna be so much data if you're not filtering it and using it correctly and you're doing all those sorts of things, you could choke on it. And for smaller retailers, to me, it really does emphasize something I know we're going to be talking about during the technology track at NGA, which is, using technology to figure out how to get closer to your customers.
Yes.
I think that the danger, it seems to me, with all of the data and all the technologies that are coming, is that if they're not applied like surgically, right? If you're not judicious about it, you can create a lot of noise. It's why it's important for manufacturers to have companies to help them go through it. So you're not just throwing spaghetti against the wall to see
Totally.
what sticks. You're being very specific about what happens if we do this, and if we do that, how does it affect shoppers, and then and take baby steps, as opposed to try to hit a bunch of singles first before you try and hit lots of home runs.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, historically, the advantage that the smaller retailer has had is a more intimate relationship with their customers, right? They get to see them more close up. They act more like them because they're in the same geography as them. They understand their needs. They're able to serve those needs. They're able to test things, learn from that, and iterate relatively quickly versus the bigger guy, right? That tends to maybe have more broad scale vanilla type programs. Well, that's historically been really powerful. Well, now with the kind of the precise use of large amounts of data, along with really good technology, delivered through things like Walmart calling adaptive retail, right? The bigger guys, from a technology standpoint, are getting they have a really good opportunity now to be very personal with their customers via technology. And so the medium and smaller guys, retailers, they've got to be on their game in the adoption of technology through this. But to your point, you got to be really thoughtful in how you do it. Now, the good news is you do know your customers going in, right? And your customers are going to be swooned and wooed by the by the draw from the other big guys of technology. So you're going to need to have some tech for them. Yeah, be thoughtful in what you're testing. We always say, have that hunger and thirst to try things, but have a good way to kind of contain the pilot, get some good feedback from it, learn from it, and then either kill it or scale it. But these smaller retailers are going to actually have a really I would quite like hair on fire urgent need, but a definite need to be on their tech game in the next 2 to 3 years here.
Totally agree. Well, it's fascinating, and it just, again, we just a few weeks ago we were talking about Walmart, and we were talking about Doug McMillan's presentation at NRF, and how impressed we both were with the kind of the plan he was laying out for the future. I mean, to this point, as best I can tell, Walmart is not doing individual targeting. In other words, it's not like I'm getting different offers from Walmart than my next door neighbor is. I don't think they've gotten to that point yet, but it's not hard to imagine that that's where they would go, and that it would make sense for them to go in that direction in the not too distant future.
Well, we know, and you could even hear through that presentation that a lot of the things they were talking about, they were generating customer specific type of data, and they were doing kind of tailored programs, or assortment or recommendations or whatnot, back to those customers. So, they're rolling that out now. They talked about their version of a replenishment service, and they said it was based on the purchase consumptions of you, the individual customer. So they're on it. I mean, we might not see much of it yet, but it's here.
Yeah. I would got to imagine that's one of the reasons they decided to get back into business with Mark Laurie, right? With Wonder to test that out. I mean, that's not just because, oh, Mark's a nice guy,
Yeah,
no, they're looking at how their fresh sales are growing. They want to power it and they think they can get a little bit, they can get a little bit more market share. And
yeah,
it was fascinating. I was talking about this program down in Pennsylvania after I looked at the one that I profiled on Monday, and I can't tell. A bunch of people said, "Oh, tell me about that. How do I get? How do And then they all thought that was a really, really good idea. They were all Walmart customers. They didn't know about Wonder yet, but it was relatively new. But they said I would totally try that because so they, you know, I mean, listen, the whole ghost kitchen experiment, we're going in a different direction now,
yeah.
has had mixed results at best. But I think this is a really good move I mean, listen, test it out. It doesn't really cost
Totally.
anything in the scheme of things. They could learn a lot, and if it takes off, they could power this thing in a way that other people wouldn't be able to do.
Yeah, I mean, I fully believe in the power and the potential of ghost kitchens, and I think that it is a matter of finding that right formula,
Right.
and drawing out of that, consolidated source of production, the right mix that can work. Yeah, you've had two, ghost kitchen, central kitchen stories in the last, couple of weeks that you
Right.
visited, or you visited one and got the video on the other one. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really cool because it seems like there was a period where there was some like new ghost kitchen models out there that were raising money and whatnot, but they seem kind of detached from the industry. So it's really nice to see it happening in the industry now. And
Yeah.
I'm definitely rooting for these to work because I think it's got real good potential.
And if somebody's going to figure out how to make this work, it's probably going to be Mark Laurie. He's got to, he
He's got a
does,
golden touch.
and he'll probably sell it. He'll probably build it out and sell it to Walmart for, I don't know, $4 billion, because
Yeah.
that's he's very good at that. Hey, listen, great talking with you. Really interesting subject. I will see you at NGA.
See you in a few days.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.